Obama, his former ethics chief from the White House, his name is Walter Shaub, released this statement. Biden's own retention of classified records reflects an inexcusable neglect of the most basic security protocols.
It feels pretty calculated, to be honest. It feels like there are people involved in this, whether that is with the Obama front or whoever it is who's going in saying, okay, we need to make these pretty strong statements. And like I said, I feel like we're headed towards a very interesting 2024 and one that may not end up being the players that we all think it is. And I think this is starting some of that conversation. When you start double downing, when you start saying stuff like inexcusable neglect, I mean, that is a pretty big line in the sand.
But he went on to say this too. The fact that the White House didn't mention that records were found in more than one location when first asked about them was a breach of trust with the public and a self-inflicted wound. Logan, this goes to exactly what you were talking about. They're talking about breach of public trust. They're not necessarily, this is an ethics official. He's not going to go and say whether he should, be prosecuted or not. He's the sitting president, so he really can't do that. Or if other people. But what he's saying is that breach of public trust is when you say, maybe this person shouldn't be the leader of our party.
By saying breach of public trust, you're saying this should not be the president of the United States. And that's essentially what you're saying in that. And if you are an Obama former official, you can start to sort of read between the lines of where things are headed.
The Obama former White House ethics person saying this is inexcusable neglect, which, Andy, is pretty close to using it's not a legal term. That's pretty close to a kind of criminal conduct, like inexcusable again, negligence.
When I heard that term, inexcusable neglect, I thought, whoa, you're getting very near the criminal threshold to something that may not just be a mere civil error or a civil wrong, but inexcusable neglect, you're now getting into an area that sure does smell criminal.
Biden attorneys said we have all the documents, and then Saturday morning we woke up and there were more documents being found. I don't even know if this is still done. I mean, he's got other homes and he's got, again, other locations, and you got to start digging through. I mean, I would imagine as a former senator and vice president, he's got boxes and boxes of stuff.
But another thing that's been really bothering me is the government is allowing, the Justice Department is allowing these private attorneys to go through all these and they don't have security clearance for these documents.
They're not looking at, they're going to look at the folder, but they're not actually looking at what's inside the folder. But even the folder itself might have information that's not appropriate. And then Andy, explain to people, because they're all becoming witnesses.
Every one of those people who is not a federal agent, like an FBI agent, and who is going through these documents automatically makes himself or herself a witness in the case. And I would say that you have better get ready for a subpoena from Jim Jordan's Committee on the Judiciary with respect to what you saw, what you did, and where you went. And you can't claim attorney-client privilege here because you went outside that privilege and you became a searcher. And as a searcher, you are a witness, and that means you may have to testify.
They have made missteps. I mean, you can say what you want about President Trump and the fight there. When we were his attorneys, we were so careful not to become witnesses. Yep. And you always make that distinction. You have the official people who can go in and do their official jobs, but you don't become a witness. That is not your job. Is not to dig through to find classified documents. From the beginning, the moment that attorney found one, they should have said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Absolutely.
And that maybe would be excusable because they found one and then immediately went. But instead, they started digging, say, here's 10. And then, let's run up to the other house and check.
What we also know is that the documents that were removed when he left office were divided and distributed. Some went to one office, some to another. In the case of the third discovery, that was separated out. The question is, why were they divided and distributed? If this was an inadvertent misplacement, it meant that they didn't just do this inadvertently, they had to do it repeatedly inadvertently.
Right, which he's joking about there because, again, you have documents that were found at an office in D.C. Then you have some documents in the garage, but then you have documents in the office at the home as well. So, Andy, that would indicate that they were being utilized to some extent.
They were, and let's be realistic. They were being utilized. I don't have evidence of it, but I have common sense and the reality of having lived in the world, and I know that they weren't there just sitting. They were being used. And as Turley says, they moved it around, and they did it repeatedly, inadvertently. Repeatedly, inadvertently, folks, translates to the word intentionally.